Hello everyone and welcome to the Library Kitchen here at the Gloucester County Public Library. I'm Chris, and today, with the holidays approaching, we have a special guest, Mrs. Claus.
I'm so delighted to be back again this year, James. Oh, I think your friends call you Chris, but since I've known you since you were a little boy, I'm still going to call you James.
Well, today I hear you have brought a couple things with you that we are going to be making your special chocolate chip cookies.
Yes, indeed. These are my very special chocolate chip cookies. These are the ones that Santa loves, and I find they are a favorite among moms and dads. And it has a very special ingredient in it. It has a special chocolate. It's Valrhona chocolate. It comes all the way from France. It's an artisanal chocolate, and I know an elf who knows an elf that makes sure I have these every winter so that Santa has his favorite cookies.
Well, let's get started making those cookies then. I guess you're going to read the ingredients to me, and I will add those to the bowl to mix the cookies.
It would be my pleasure.
Right.
So the first thing you need is 2 sticks of butter softened.
And that is really important with this recipe, isn't it? That it's really soft butter, because we're not using a mixer. We're not using a hand mixer or anything. We're going to be using a wooden spoon. So you don't have to have any electrics to make this chocolate chip cookie.
That's right, and that's why this is a great recipe to make with children, because just use a spoon.
Well, we're first starting with 2 sticks of salted Klugra butter.
But any salted butter would work. That's just our favorite.
We're going to add that to our bowl. And then next we're going to add
3/4 cup of white sugar.
White sugar to our butter. All right.
And 1 cup of dark brown sugar.
All right. And then we're going to start to cream the butter and the sugars with our wooden spoon until well incorporated. So Mrs. Claus, tell me, what do the elves like to eat at the North Pole?
Well, the elves like cookies, of course.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that Buddy the Elf's favorite foods are candy canes, candy corn, and syrup. But generally, most of the elves' favorite foods are gingerbread, and you're going to be surprised, Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts?
Elves love vegetables. And it's so icy at the North Pole that they've created biodomes to grow their vegetables in, so they have vegetables all year long. Now, we do still import things like flour and sugar, and we do that on the Iron Reindeer.
So what's the Iron Reindeer?
Glad you asked. The Iron Reindeer is actually a train, and it runs on the world's oldest and biggest underground railroad.
Oh, okay.
Yep. The Underground Railroad was built by gnomes many, many years ago. And in fact, the buildings never stopped. We're always adding track. But that's how we get our things from the outside world.
Oh, very interesting.
Yes. Looks like you've got your creaming done.
I have, and it took just a few minutes, but the brown sugar, the white sugar, and the butter are well creamed together. And now we're going to add 2 eggs, one at a time, mixing it into our sugar and butter mixture.
Okay.
We're going to start with the 1 egg, and we're just going to, again, mix and cream that egg into the sugar and butter. And that might take just a minute or so. So now that we have both eggs incorporated thoroughly into our sugar and butter mixture, we're going to set this aside for a few minutes and work on our dry ingredients.
So I'm assuming that's 2 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour.
2 2/3 cup. Very accurate for this recipe.
You need 1 teaspoon of salt.
1 teaspoon of salt.
And 1 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda.
Baking soda, yes ma'am.
Not baking powder. I made that mistake one time. The elves never let me forget it.
And we're just going to whisk the salt and the baking soda into the flour just to make sure it's thoroughly mixed. All right. So now we're going to add our dry ingredients into our wet ingredients and fold. We're going to start a little bit at a time. I normally mix in about half of the flour into the wet ingredients and gently fold with our wooden spoon. So I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of my flour mixture and start to mix in for a few minutes. So Mrs. Claus, is there a library at the North Pole?
Yes, there is. We actually have a hall of records. It's a huge building. And inside that building, we have our public library. And I think it works pretty much like the Gloucester Public Library. It's full of books, and the elves can come and choose books that they can read in the library, or they can borrow them and take them home. Now, also in the Hall of Records is Santa's map room, and it contains his extensive collection of maps and globes. You know, every year Santa makes a map of his exact path that he takes while he's delivering presents throughout the world.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he even makes notations about that year's current reload points. And if he finds anything interesting in his journey, he also puts that on the map. So it's really fascinating. Oh, I think it's ready.
Well, it is, and we're coming up on the best part.
One of my favorite parts.
And that's where we're going to add 14 ounces of chopped, chunked, bittersweet chocolate. And again, this is your special chocolate from Valrhona in France.
I brought it especially for you to use today in your recipe.
Now, if we can't find this chocolate, what do you think we should use?
Well, there are a lot of good choices. Ghirardelli has some bittersweet baking chips. That's a good choice. You can use that. Or, I think you got this. Looks like Trader Joe's.
I did. Just a 1 pound block of chocolate that you could cut with a knife.
That's correct. So, you use what you have available, but this truly is wonderful chocolate that you're using today.
It'll take me a second or two to mix the chunks of chocolate into the dough. And while I'm doing that, we're going to preheat our oven to 375.
Okay.
Well, I think it's ready, Mrs. Claus.
I do have one more special ingredient I put in all of my cookies.
What's that?
This is a little extra Christmas cheer.
Oh, I know that'll make it extra special.
Yes, it makes everything taste better.
Let me mix that in. And once everything is kind of mixed together and the chips are incorporated throughout the dough, you're going to put this dough in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to chill. And then we're going to come back and we're going to portion out our cookies to our baking sheet.
Or if you're in the North Pole, you can just set them on the windowsill. It's cold there. Ooh.
So Mrs. Claus, this cookie dough has rested in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, and we are now ready to make our cookies and bake.
I'm excited.
So what we're going to use for these cookies is either a tablespoon, and that's how you would portion out your cookies, a nice heaping round tablespoon, or, and just put that on your greased baking sheet, or I like to use a cookie scoop. Now this is a small cookie scoop from OXO, but it makes about a nice tablespoon cookie, and it already forms it into kind of a ball. So we're going to go ahead. Yes.
I think that was a little small.
Well, I will do my best to get a heaping.
We should not have small chocolate chip cookies.
There we go. Let's portion these out. We've got to make enough for everyone.
Well, we could use a dribble.
Okay. And by letting this dough rest in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, it helps the dough hold together when you put it in the oven so that your cookies don't spread and become, 6 inches around. They'll hold their shape better. So we're ready to put our cookies in the oven, again at 375 for 10 minutes. Do not overbake these cookies. So set it for 10 minutes and you can then pop those out of the oven and onto a cooling rack.
In about 60 seconds, it's going to smell really great.
So it's been 10 minutes and I can smell the chocolate.
Smells yummy.
So I'm going to go ahead and get those out of the oven.
Okay.
And put them on the cooling rack to cool for a few minutes.
Okay. They look great. They really look great. You did a wonderful job, I think, with my recipe.
Thank you. We'll get these on the cooling rack and let them cool, and we'll give them a taste test.
Can't wait.
Mrs. Claus, the cookies have been resting for about 5 to 10 minutes, so they're still slightly warm with little chewy centers and little crunchy bottoms.
Okay.
So are we ready to do a taste test?
I think so.
See if I made your cookies to your standards.
Shall I?
Yes. Good.
These are great. You did an excellent job,
Thank
James.
you.
This
Thank
puts
you.
you on the nice list.
Oh, wonderful. Folks, you can find this recipe in the link below for this video. And remember to like and subscribe to the Gloucester County YouTube channel so that you don't miss any upcoming videos and demonstrations. Happy holidays.
Hey, we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.